to come and learn some things today. We really hope it's going to be wonderful and informative. So just a little bit of an agenda for the day. We're going to be tackling three main topics, the first being the BI news and the fabric news. And then we have Carike Botha here with us today to talk about some magic in Power BI and in Power Apps. So just before I continue and hand over to Nolo to present the BI news, I'd like to just introduce our guest speaker for the day. So Carike Botha is a software development consultant at iSolve Business Solutions here in South Africa. And she's been solving problems and building very cool things for about 15 years in the industry. She is also a Microsoft MVP in BizApps and loves being a Power Cat as well. So she's a proud woman in tech and really enjoys sharing her knowledge wherever and whenever she can. So I think it's really wonderful that you're here with us today, Carike. Welcome, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Cailin.
Awesome. So I'm just going to go to the next slide just to chat through a bit of the agenda. As I mentioned now, we're going to walk through that as we go through the day. Just normal teams etiquette that we go through every time we have our BI user group. Please try keep your video on if you are willing, and also keep your audio muted if possible, just to prevent feedback on all ends. Once again, we have our event survey. Please use this QR code to provide us with any and all feedback from today's session. I will also put this up again at the end of the session today for those of you who can and want to give us some feedback. We really do try use this to actually give us insights into what we can present at the next BI user group event. And we also look for presenters on this as well. So if you want to be a presenter, please copy this link or follow this link and fill out that form. It would be greatly appreciated. All right, awesome. So Nolo, I think you are here. Are you ready to kick us off with the BI news?
Hi, Cailin. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Oh, okay. Let me just share my screen. Good day, everyone. I'd like to present to you today the Power BI user group news and updates for April. It's going to be a bit of an interesting one because since our last meeting, we had 2 updates. So I had to find a way to bring the 2 together. And as in many cases, at times something was previewed last month and there has been an update again for it this month. So I just put the things together. So for today's agenda, I will introduce myself. Then we'll go to the news, the monthly updates, and I will share some useful links. Please do pardon me. I don't have a lot of professional pictures, but my name is Nolo. Many know me as Nolo. Mdabudabu. I'm a BI consultant at Sado Analytics, and my email and LinkedIn URLs are there on the screen. Then for announcements, so we had 2 updates with the April updates coming about 2 days ago. So from the March ones, the highlights were Power BI desktop startup performance improvements, semantic models, in direct lake storage mode, improvements in language understanding for data questions. For April, it was mobile view improvements, semantic models can be edited in Tyndall. It was another update and improvements in layout for live editing semantic models, which was another update. So for March, with the startup performances, the March 25 updates included an update that provided significant improvements in the startup performance. And this was an enhancement made to make the application launch faster. And from what has been done, a blank report now opens about 4 seconds faster as opposed to 8 seconds. And even reports with data do open a bit faster than they used to. But since this is a March update, I'm sure a lot of you are now used to it now and maybe find it normal by now. Then with the Q&A features, there was an improvement in its natural language processing with improved synonym recognition. And this works even in composite models, allowing for more comprehensive answers. And it has become more interactive. As you can see on the far right, for example, before the improvements, when you asked how many clients bought tea, if it couldn't find the word tea in the data set, it would say it can't find the specific product. But now it will know that chai is a form of tea, and it will give you a count. It would even tell you how it got to derive the answer it gave you. Then with direct lake storage mode, it will be particularly beneficial for analytic projects that require fast data loading, frequent refresh operations, and efficient use of resources. And it is also possible to connect to multiple OneLake data sources. This will also be great for reports with a lot of data, as it will significantly improve how long it takes to refresh the reports. Then in April, we had mobile viewing improvements. This is something that I've used a bit. It was formerly in preview for a long time, but it is finally made general. So it will simplify the process of optimizing reports for mobile apps. It will no longer require extra effort, as you can now use the auto create mobile layout button, and then what it will do is it will look at the original page's visual arrangements, and it will use that to determine where to put everything in the mobile view. I would like to say, even now that it is in general, it has come a long way. It has really improved, but it's not yet perfect. Then with semantic models that can be edited with Tyndall, so Power BI now lets you preview script changes before applying them. It shows a code comparison difference of the semantic models before and after the script would run. This is helpful when using script from external sources, enabling you to understand the changes before you execute them. So as in the picture there, what is red would be what is being discarded, and what is green would be the changes you're making, so you can easily check what's coming in and not. Then with the improvements in layouts for live editing semantic models, the direct lake model layout changes are now synchronized seamlessly between Power BI desktop and the service, meaning that any adjustments you make on the direct lake model on the web will be reflected on Power BI desktop and vice versa. And this will ensure consistency across both platforms. Next, we have a summary of what happened in Copilot and AI. So with the Power BI preview shown in Teams, there's a new button that you can press that will allow Copilot to give you a report of visual summaries, and it will even give you an AI generated summary, which can be helpful maybe when you're just trying to get a quick overview instead of opening the entire report. Then also Copilot in Power BI can now understand and use user-created hierarchies and display folder names from your data model and write index queries. By including these in your model, you'll be providing Copilot with more context, allowing you to generate faster and better text queries when you are leveraging Copilot powers. And lastly, Copilot in Power BI can now perform ad hoc calculation when answering questions about your data. And this update will bring text query generation capabilities from the text query view directly into the Copilot pane, allowing it to create necessary calculations to answer your data questions. Then the April update made this feature available in read mode as well. Then next with reporting and modeling, a workspace level preview feature is now available that will allow you to edit data models directly within the Power BI service. But this functionality will be enabled only for pro users and upwards. Then with Fabric notebooks, you will be able to analyze Power BI semantic models in the web with one click using pre-configured Fabric notebooks and semantic link. By simply selecting the notebook and the system, the system will handle the setup, allowing you to seamlessly start your analysis. Then the best practice analyzer will give you recommendations for better semantic model design and performance, whilst the memory analyzer would offer insights into the memory and storage usage of objects within your semantic model. Then one of my favorites, the table viewing improvement. We have now the ability we now have right click options, so you can easily copy the entire table, a specific column, or just a cell value, and you can even use Control-C to do this. Lastly, these are some of the useful links you can use to go look at the website for the March and April updates, as well as where you can find the Power BI community website. And lastly, please always remember to save your files. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Nolo. I love that meme at the end there. I think it's happened to us a few times. I'm sure everyone's experienced that before. Cool. Thank you so much for that. I'm going to quickly take back the screen share. All right, perfect. So just with some Fabric news. So since the Fabric conference was not so long ago, quite a few things have been released. So I'm going to try and go through this in a somewhat high level, just to go through as many of the different cool features and functionality that they spoke about not so long ago. And yeah, there's some links I will provide if you want to go and dive deeper into those specific themes to go and look in your own time as well. So the first big one that actually happened is that AI is taking center stage in Fabric. We're seeing a lot more integration mechanisms here, and they're working smarter in what they're trying to release. So this specific focus was on smarter integration with Azure. So one of the biggest upgrades that Fabric has done recently is this integration with Azure's AI services. So there's 4 main things here from a theme level. The one is built-in generative AI support that now lets users generate insights from large data sets using natural language, eliminating the need for complex programming or SQL queries. So they've introduced this. The second one is the Azure machine learning model integration. They've improved that. So it's not that that's a new feature, but they have improved that mechanism for integration. So it's a lot more seamless. And you can deploy and use these predictive models directly in Fabric now without needing custom workarounds. So they've enhanced that experience for developers. Smarter workflows is the third point, where Fabric now automatically connects AI models to data warehouses. So that helps reduce this lag between ingestion and data analysis as well. And then adaptive AI querying is helping us tailor results based on user behavior and context. So your analytics will get more accurate over time. So this is another focus that they're looking into at the moment. So basically, this new AI stack within Fabric is going to help reduce the time and effort needed to build intelligent apps that can scale quickly. And that was their idea. Cool. Then the next one is serious performance gains. So for those of you who are in organizations where you have hundreds, if not more of those reports, hundreds to thousands of active reports and models across different departments, most likely you've seen a slight improvement in how things load and how quickly things are. are operating. And this is because there's been some performance improvements across the board from Fabric side. So mainly to basically improve performance at scale. They realized that this was a problem within organizations and within the Microsoft Fabric community. They were getting a lot of outreach, so they looked into it. So the 4 main things that they improved was query execution. So it's much faster thanks to better resource allocation. And the second is cloud workload support, which is more dynamic. It also allows Fabric to balance resource demands across distributed systems automatically. So that's really helpful when you're dealing with lots of reports. And then the third is data compression and storage optimization. So your overhead and data retrieval is faster. Lower CPU and memory usage means that operations are smoother, especially for teams running high volume or real-time analytics pipelines. So if you are in that industry, specifically finance, where you need lots of real-time dashboards, this is a really, really fantastic improvement that they've looked into recently. Then thirdly, it's boosting security. So they've also focused a little bit more on how they could enhance security across their Fabric resources. So they now support a zero trust model, which basically means that you verify access for each request individually. So there's no more assumptions and no more exceptions. It's a bit more of a tightly secured model. So what's new here is they have end-to-end encryption for data at rest and in transit. So it basically ensures that sensitive information is now staying protected. They've also improved granular access controls. So this allows administrators to fine-tune who can view or manipulate data all the way down to row level. So that is really, really helpful when you've got a lot of different access that you need to manage across various different hierarchies. They've also implemented multi-factor authentication, specifically for administrative and developer access. So that's also great. They've also automated threat detection, so you can spot some unusual behavior and basically do this fast enough so that it doesn't actually become a breach. And then improved audit trails means that every data touch is logged. So you can go back to a point in time and see what, when, and why something happened. So if your organization is dealing with some strict compliance requirements, then they've been looking at this and really trying to improve this experience for you. Then over to the next one. There's quite a few. I will try to keep it brief. The next one is the dev experience. So they've tried to really enhance this process for developers, specifically within expanding their toolkit that they currently have for individuals who are building custom workflows, analytics apps, or integration mechanisms. So they've implemented some new APIs and SDKs, and this has helped just make it a bit more seamless to actually integrate Fabric with external systems. So that's been a nice improvement. The support for Python and R has also expanded, which helps enable more advanced statistical models and machine learning pipelines to be developed, specifically if you're doing custom workflows there. The data model configuration is also more flexible, so you can have a bit more control over how your data sets are structured and also shared. And then the CI/CD support is officially integrated. So this was something that was announced last year, and it's now officially integrated. So you can enable version control. So that's really fantastic that they've managed to get this one going. And then just improved connectors as well have helped bridge the gap between on-prem and cloud data. So hybrid systems or setups are a little bit more seamless. So yeah, if you've been fighting with this platform with trying to deploy things and work across different teams and multiple people touching the same thing, there is a little bit more of a structure now for the dev experience. Then on to number 5, there's also been some enhancements to the UI. And this is just so that all of us who use Fabric and Power BI and various tools within Fabric, it's just a little bit better for all of us. So there's a new user interface, so it's just a bit cleaner and easy to navigate. The data visualization tools also have been upgraded, so especially for interactive charts and filters. So that's quite fun. If you are building some data visualizations, maybe just go and check some of these out and how it's working. They've also got real-time alerts and personalized notifications. So this can help you just stay on top of what's going on within your data pipelines and some metric changes as well. There's adaptive data insights too that now suggest filters or visual tweaks based on user behavior. So this kind of lends itself to that AI discussion I was speaking about a bit earlier. And then the Fabric plays better with Microsoft tools as well, like Excel, Teams, and Outlook. They are trying to improve that experience and that integration as well. And then absolute lastly, these are just some highlighted features that I think are really nice to share. These are now in general available status. So these have potentially been mentioned in previous BI user groups, but I thought I would reiterate ones that I think majority of you will use quite frequently. So the first being row-level security editor in Power BI. This originally was launched last year, July, but it's now officially in GA status now. And it's basically a visual interface that allows you to configure access rules without having to go deep into DAX and do it from that side of things. So they've just tried to help improve this security to make it a bit more intuitive. Then time travel in Fabric Warehouse. So you can actually now query past versions of your data up to 30 days back. So it's quite powerful, like a safety net for debugging, auditing, and so on. And then the last two speak quite nicely to the DevOps side of things with GitHub integration for dashboards. So you have real-time dashboards that can now be version controlled and managed via GitHub, which brings Fabric deeper into this DevOps lifecycle. And the similar approach to notebook Git integration and deployment pipeline. So data scientists, those in the room, you can now manage your notebooks like code, version them and deploy them through Fabric native pipelines. So that's also a really fantastic new feature. All right, so those are, that's the Fabric news. I know it's a lot and a lot of different updates, but I will post the link in the chat for those of you if something stood out to you. There are a lot of different articles on what you can do and also a lot of detailed explanations of how to use this as well. So yeah, please navigate to that link and you can go and explore. All right, so now over to you, Carike.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Cailin. I don't know how I'm going to top that with all those new amazing announcements. My word. It's such an exciting time, hey, to be in the tech space. It's just updates everywhere, no matter what industry you're sitting in.
Absolutely. It's almost hard to keep up sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. It is becoming very hard because there's so many exciting things. Like, I don't have the time to go and play with Fabric, but I would really want to play with Fabric now. Cool. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. If you can just kindly let me know if you can see it. Great stuff. So let me just get my thoughts. Fantastic. So once again, good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Sven, thanks for the invite to have a chat to your user group. This is very, very cool. And yeah, today I'm going to talk a little bit about some Power BI magic in Power Apps. Considering all the AI stuff that's happening and all the latest things that we're doing, it might feel like we're taking a little bit of a step back. But the scenario or the demo that I'm going to do today was for such a unique scenario that was that we actually did for a client, and that's how I found the Power BI connector. But before I get into that, just a little bit about myself. For those who don't know me, my name is Carike Botha. I work for a company called iSolve Business Solution, as Cailin have mentioned previously. I'm also a Microsoft MVP in the Power Apps, Power Automate space, which is in short the BizApp space. I'm sure with all the Copilot Studio things happening and all AI, some of us as MVPs, our titles might just change a little bit as well. But if you would like to connect with me on LinkedIn and Twitter, please scan the QR code. I would love to connect with all of you and the community on the socials. There we go. Cool. Then with that said, I'm sure everyone on the call by now know what the Microsoft Power Platform is, but just in case there's someone who hasn't worked or even touched the Microsoft Power Platform, this is just a little diagram to introduce you to the components that make up the Microsoft Power Platform. So we've got Power Apps, Power Automate, Power BI, Copilot Studio, and Power Pages. Copilot Studio used to actually be known as Power Virtual Agents, but that has now been updated to be Copilot Studio because it actually has so many new features instead of just being a virtual agent, which is a chatbot. But that's not going to be our focus for this evening. Our focus for this evening is the parts that are circled, which is going to be Power Apps and Power BI. Just some sub features that you get within the Power Platform as well as obviously you get data connectors where you can integrate into your data, whether they be Microsoft or third-party data connectors. You can also build your own custom connectors if a connector is not available from the list that there is. You also have AI Builder. So AI Builder is a model it's for the low coders, right? So they don't have to go and build all very complex models. There's some pre-built models that can be used, but you can also integrate that with Azure AI. So you can really build a powerful AI model using some of the pre-built as well as building your own. And then obviously we've got Microsoft Dataverse, which sits as the main data source usually for Microsoft Power Platform. We do some formulas in Power Apps using Power FX, and then we can also, with the DevOps, have managed environments just to make everybody's lives easier when it comes to deploying from dev to UAT to prod. I can see that in all the spaces, they are really trying to make our lives easier with version control and having proper deployment pipelines. Cool. With that said, let's talk a little bit about the Power BI connector that you get in Power Apps. So in my demo, I'll show you how you would add the Power BI connector. So something that's very cool about the Power BI connector is it's one of those that are not a premium connector, so you can actually use this for free without having or requiring any additional licensing. And I just wanted to show all the different functions that you get by using or adding this Power BI connector to your Power App. So obviously you can use the Power BI connector to add rows. You can do a goal value check-in. You can do executing a dataset query, which is what we will be focusing on today. And you can get some scorecards. There's a whole bunch of things that you can do. So the big question is, did I jump to my slide? No, it's not updating my slide. Why? That is so bizarre. Let me just see why it's not putting down my slide. This is number 6. Yes. Let's present from there. Let me quickly just sort this out. Of course, it wouldn't be a talk without a technical glitch, right? That's 100%. Just IT for us. Let's just see. Resume the slideshow. Yes. No. Are you going to give me the joy of doing this for me? No. This is such an important slide. Why are you not giving it to me? Okay. I will not let technology beat me. Cool. So why is it that we want to use this Power BI connector in Power Apps? Firstly, because it gives you data-driven app logic, which helps a lot with, you can actually use the Power BI data. So data coming from the Power BI data sets to dynamically control behavior. So you can build in some logic for your application based on the data that's coming from the data set. For example, show or hide screens or fields based on a user's KPI score or maybe the sales region. So unlike embedding a Power App inside of a report, this gives the app full control over what you can do with the data instead of just collecting input. It is also better for a mobile first scenario. So we know Power Apps works well on mobiles. So that's obviously if we made it a responsive app, but maybe that one is busted by, I see the mobility has been improved from in the news, so we must watch the space, I guess, in Power BI. Also, it's really helpful for reusability. So from an app perspective, if you needed to reuse the app or reuse a data set, it just makes it easier to move that part when building a new app. So that's one of the benefits as well. It's simplified in user flow. So in other words, if your users don't live in Power BI, this is a nice and easy way to get your Power BI to the users if they maybe live in the Power App rather. And then from a security alignment perspective, it does respect the row-level security rules that you've already set in Power BI. So you've got a secure tailored data view in the app. So that's all the reasons why we want to use the Power BI connector within the Power App. So hopefully, let's see if it will give me any satisfaction now. There we go. Now I can go to the next slide. Sure as day. Let me just put on my presenter view again. Cool. So now let's look at, in comparison to why you would use the Power BI connector within Power Apps versus actually embedding a Power App inside of your Power BI report. When you embed a Power App inside of your Power BI report, what you do get is you have the ability to collect input from a report. That would be maybe updating a comment or updating a status. It would be something very simple. It is not meant to be a complex thing when you embed the Power App into a Power BI report. It also obviously enhances the report interactivity. So as they navigate the report, it would update on the Power App that's embedded in there as well, and it can complement the visuals. However, that is limited to the fact that it can't really be reused. You can't really reuse the app elsewhere. It can only be used in that report, and then users must be inside of the report for the app to work. So logic is often driven by what is on the report page instead of the app functioning the way you want the application to function. So it's just, the reason I'm mentioning this is in the case of where you need to make a decision of, am I embedding an application inside of a Power BI report, or am I rather going to build an application because I need some other functionality that's dependent on the Power BI data set? And that kind of would answer that question as to where would you use which one. Also, just something to consider, I've put together a little table, and this is the one how I got to actually using the Power BI connector. So in my client's instance, they didn't really want to use a premium connector. So Azure SQL was out, and of course Dataverse was out, and the Power BI connector, well, it actually allows me to get access to the data sets without having to pay the premium license for getting that data. So from that aspect, that's a definite win. However, from a performance perspective, you'll definitely see the difference. So obviously, because it needs to read the data from that data set versus just getting the data from Azure or a direct connection to Dataverse, there's definitely a delay in getting the data. So there's definitely, from a performance perspective, you definitely get that delay. So also when building it, and I'll show that in the demo soon, when going into that direction, it's very important that you know how much data that it is that you're going to be sending to your app. So your query has got to be very well built, because you don't want like to pass 1 million records, your app will completely crash. It's definitely not built for that. It is really for something simple, like we said, maybe checking someone's KPI, and that determines whether they've got access to a screen or maybe access to certain data, or maybe whether they're part of a certain region. And then there are some other benefits as well, and just things to note down in this table. So for instance, from a data refresh perspective, once again, something to consider, you are still limited to that 8 refreshes a day if you don't have Power BI Premium. So that is something to be cognizant of. If you refresh it from the application, that does count as a refresh against your report. So that will definitely count as one of the refreshes for the day. Where you don't, once again, necessarily have that with your Azure SQL or your Dataverse. There you can refresh the data to your heart's content. And as I've mentioned, from a performance perspective, it is slow, specifically for large data sets. So it sounds like I'm going the negative way. It's almost like I'm saying, please don't use this. I had to use it because, once again, it was what the client was wanting, and considering the factors that, or the main reason was obviously not having to pay a premium connector, and it's data that they just want easily accessible. And we also used that data to save it elsewhere, like for instance in a SharePoint list, because we were going to use that data in a different place. So we just needed something to collect the data that's coming from, for instance, a Sage. So that's why we wanted access to that data set, and that allowed us to not have to build like a custom connector with an API and all of that. So it really improved from that perspective to help us get access to the data, and therefore then save it anywhere else where we would want to use that information. Cool. So that's enough rah-rah in the evening from slides. I don't want to give you death by PowerPoint. Let's jump into some demos. So let me quickly just jump to the demo screen, which is that one. So what I've done is I've actually pre-built the app because I didn't want to struggle, because as we know with live demos, anything can and will probably go wrong. That's just how it goes. But what I've done is I've pre-built this app. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to walk you through to show you the process of how do you get the data from the data set once you've added the Power BI connector to your application. And it's a very simple process. So first of all, to add the Power BI connector to your application, what you would do is you would simply click on the add data, and you would type in Power BI, and there's the connector. And once you've done that, it really doesn't ask you for a lot. I almost think it just adds it. So once it's added, that's the one. So you'll see when I now want to use the Power BI function, I can either use Power BI or Power BI _1. So just because I've added this one, I'm going to stick to using the Power BI one. So I'm just going to remove this. But it's as simple as that, to add the connector, and immediately you've got access to all the functions. So now that we've got the connector there, now it's a case of what do I want to do with the data. So in my instance, what I wanted to do is I actually loaded it on visible of my screen. So the moment that my page loads, I wanted to go ahead and go fetch the data. So what I've done is, and these are two very important things that's necessary. So first of all, I had to put whatever I'm getting from the data set into a collection in Power Apps, right? So what I did is I just call it projects raw, and then the function that I'm using to get the dataset is Power BI execute the dataset query. Now there's two important things that you need for this. It's obviously your workspace grid and your dataset grid. So these we currently, I hard-coded this, but you could have easily created this as a global variable and then use this in different applications. Or if you wanted to quickly update this for various applications, perhaps using this data set, you can update that using a global variable. So, but these two grids are very, very important to have. So obviously your dataset grid, your workspace grid. I assume most on the call know where to find the workspace grid and the dataset grid. So I'm not going to go into that too much. And then I've built, because I know my list only has a few items, I literally just went and got everything that is in the data set. So it's very important also to understand what your table name is. So just jumping to my report quickly. So I've got it as project management 2. Just jumping from a Power BI perspective, I just want to show you what name that is so that you know that's what I'm referring to. Cool. While that one loads, let me quickly explain further. So once I've done this, obviously, and then this part is very important from a Power Apps perspective to go first table rows. This allows you to just collect all of the data that's coming from the data set using the DAX query. So once we have this, you would think that all is well in the world, but it wasn't. So let me just quickly show you from a collection perspective what this data looked like, and that will explain why I had to go through the steps below. So just looking at the collection, that's collection projects raw. So I just want to show you what this table looks like. So initially, when you've got the data set, this is the very nice table that doesn't say anything that you get. So the first time I played with this, I was like, oh dear, now what? So I've got a bunch of question marks. So I have no idea what my data looks like, which is a lot of fun, as you can imagine. So what I had to do, and this is also something that is important to know, is that I had to create another collection where I actually unpack this data set that I've just retrieved from the Power BI connector. So the problem that I had with this is it doesn't normally, if you're connecting to Azure or Dataverse, it'll pick up on your table names or your columns. This doesn't do this by default. So you need to know what fields your table has so that you can name them correctly here. So the name on the left-hand side is typically what I would call any of my columns. So this you can call whatever you want because this is your collection columns. The part on the right-hand side is where it's important. So it needs to be text, it needs to say this record value, and this is where it becomes important. So it's your table name with whatever your column name is. Okay. So if I just show you project details and I view this table now you can see that, oh, there is actually data in this table. And this would then be the collection that you can use for your logic, for your galleries, for displaying data. That would be the one that you would use then. So with that said, the data that I have is sitting in a SharePoint list. So what I've done is I've just built a very simple report where you could actually, it links to the SharePoint list. So whatever is updated is shown in the report, but then also project status is something that's coming from the app. So that's not something that's necessarily updated on the report, right? But then however someone interacts with this application, if they then update the status, it would update the status on the report as well. So that's just, it could sound a little bit messy and it sounds like we're reinventing the wheel, but this was a scenario that was needed for specific, once again, a client where I had a thing where they didn't want to embed it on the actual report. They didn't want to pay a premium license, but they wanted the status update. They wanted the comments to be updated, and therefore we used the Power BI report. And of course, as all things go with clients, they always ask, so now that we can do this, can we do more? And then you're like, maybe. But they have, in the meantime, they've asked for more, and the data set just grows. So I'm thinking that at one stage we're going to have to hit a point where we go like, I don't think that's possible in Power Apps anymore. But what I've seen, what is pretty cool that you can do as well, is from the data set, if you've got some date fields in there, you can actually build in Power Apps, a nice calendar control where you can put the data that displays in there. I actually don't have data in my example, or a date field in my example, but you can build out a nice calendar control and then plot that in your calendar that's coming from your data set. So if you imagine something like a scheduler or something coming from Sage or something like that, maybe pay wage dates or something to that effect, then you can easily display that in a Power App without necessarily having to create a report. You can just expose the data set data. So there's a lot of cool things that you can do, but this gives you more control from an app perspective, especially if you have some dependencies on the data set, but you don't necessarily want to create a report for that. And you need some logic that depends on the data that's coming from the data set, but you don't want to connect to the actual data source. You'd rather just want to connect to the data set. So any questions? That's literally in a nutshell what the Power BI connector can do for you. I don't think there's more to the demo. Let me quickly go back to the slides and maybe just speak about my key takeaways from this. So obviously the Power BI connector is based for rather embedding reports, because you can also embed reports in your Power App, but it's slow and it has refresh limitations. That's some of my key takeaways. It's ideal for data visualization analytics, but it's not for real-time operations or data updates at all. The benefit is that it's a free connector, so you don't have any premium licensing cost, but Power BI Pro or Premium is required for the report access. So that is also something that's very important to note. And it is limited to 8 refreshes per day unless you're using direct query, which still has some performance constraints. So but yeah, that's kind of what I found while trying that. Like I said, with AI changing the things, we are rapidly designing new ways and possibilities of doing things. And I'm sure agents will solve this issue for us soon. And with that, I say thank you.
Thank you so much, Carike. That was absolutely fantastic. I must say, I've spent some time working with Power Apps before and run into that data collection issue myself. So it's really nice that you found that you have to unpack it as well. Yeah, because I also used to get all of those question marks, and you feel like you've gone completely off the wall trying to figure out what's causing it. So yeah, that was a super great takeaway. I think a lot of people in the call will really benefit from that. But yeah, if there are any questions for Carike, please just raise your hands and then we'll go from there. So yeah, Sven.
In fact, I have a love-hate relationship with Power Apps, and I often hit dead ends. And so when you mentioned the 2 collections, I actually thought to myself, well, how did you know that you needed 2? And I mean, obviously, there's a community out there and you can ask questions and things like that. But would that have been something that you as an expert bashed your head on? Or would it be a beginner like me who's likely to hit that problem? The need for the 2 collection, because I mean, I hadn't the faintest idea that was a thing.
100%. So for me, it was I was banging my head long enough because I was like, I couldn't understand. And you know, the funny thing is when I initially heard, because I didn't even know that the Power BI connector is available, because I don't work with Power BI as closely as some of my peers. And I watched a few tutorials. I was like, oh, this is easy to do. But somehow the Americans have they don't need the second collection. They can just go first row headers or first row columns, and it just gives them the data. And that's where I started banging my head, because I was like, they are getting the information. Why am I not? And I tried to figure it out. And then eventually, after some time, I to the communities, because I was like, surely someone must have also struggled like me to get this data. And it wasn't because of the Power BI connector. I actually got the answer while someone was trying to figure out choice fields from Dataverse, and they also got that question mark, and to try and unpack the choice fields, that's where they set up the second connector collection. And I was like, oh, maybe if I do it this way, that could work. And it did, thankfully.
Isn't it bizarre how you find the solution somewhere else after having given up to try and look in the place that you thought was the right place?
Yeah. 100%. So yes, I feel very sorry for a beginner just starting out, and maybe perhaps not even knowing how to phrase, you know, what am I looking for? And if no one has posted specifically that answer, but yeah, that's why we have these community sessions, to share those little golden nuggets with each other.
While I'm still unmuted, may I ask, you were going to take us to Power BI, and then it took too long, but I wouldn't mind just seeing what you have there, just to see, you know, to close the gap from the other side.
Absolutely. Let me quickly, thank you for the reminder on that. So let me quickly jump to Power BI. It goes into sleep mode, and then it goes like, I'm going to take forever to load, especially because I'm doing a demo, right? So how I've built the report is I obviously started out in just Power BI desktop as well. So I built the report in here, published it to Power BI Online, but that project management 2 is kind of what I called my table. I could rename it to just project management, and that would update on my side, but that would mean that I need to update that little segment that I have there as well. So that's just something that's very important. If at any time you move the report into a new data set and that grid changes, it's very important to update that on the Power App. Once again, that's something you can set up as a global variable. So let's say you know the table names, maybe even the column names, right? You can set them up as global variables. Then, especially if you've got more than one application using the data set with that Power BI connector in your application, global variables would be the best way to do it. That means you set it up outside of and that usually is in a solution. For this demo, I've just built the app sitting loose outside of a solution. Inside of a solution pack, you can define those global variables, and then you can put in the table name, column names, I would suggest that's probably the better way, especially if you have more than one app using that. But yeah, so this is the project where I've built it. This is reading from SharePoint, and then I've published that to the online Power BI, and this is the online Power BI. So obviously on the application also, so let me just do that quickly. And I do apologize if I look a little bit like a Power BI noob. It's because I am. So this was
we
also
won't judge you,
completely.
don't worry. Yeah.
So yeah, so even when the client approached me with this, I was like slightly panicking, getting the sweats in the hairline, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm not the Power BI person. But what I would do is, so just to show you like full circle how that would get added. So obviously I've got a list of things here. So from this application, if I select any record from this gallery, I can update that record in here. So as you can see, it updated with the things that I have here. And maybe I want to make the project status to in progress and submit that. So at the moment, it's not going to display this because my gallery is actually reading from the data set. So whatever is in the data set is what's displayed in this gallery. Also, if I wanted to add a new record, maybe, so let's just do this. Let's add Cailin, just because I've added Sven already. And let's go Power BI UG, and we submit. So now what I've done is, oh, network error. It's fun times, fun times. Shall I try that again? So what I'm doing is I'm adding a new record and updating an existing one. So let's just submit this. So that one went through successfully. There might be 2 records now in there. So if I submit this one, I think this is the one that was complaining. There we go. And just to show you how this happens. So I've actually got a SharePoint list. And if I refresh the changes that I've just built in, so as you can see, Cailin's added 2 times. And then on my side, the status is updated to in progress. So it's not reflecting on the app yet because we haven't refreshed the data source. So I remember last time when I clicked on refresh, it didn't quite refresh. I had to actually, and this is the part where I don't know, because it's just like, that's just how I built it. And I just know when I click refresh on my app, it works. So I know here, if I refresh the data source from here, it actually goes to the SharePoint list to get whatever is in the SharePoint list, because this specific table is pointing to the SharePoint list as a data source. So I don't know why I have to refresh it in the Power BI desktop, publish it again for that to refresh in the data set. That part is the part that I can't explain. I just know it works that way. So as you can see, now it has, did it update now? There we go. There's Cailin. There we go. And mine also updated to in progress. So now if I publish this report, and after I've published it, and then I press that little refresh button in my app, then it shows the latest data. So that means now my data set has whatever is the latest data.
What would there? Oh, I see Tian's got his hand up. Maybe he wants to make a comment there, and I'll do the same. Yeah.
Cool.
Go for it, Tian.
So a way you can get around to refreshing your data set without going to the interface here to Power BI to update it is you can call a flow from your app, and there's an action that you can add in the flow to do a data refresh on your data set.
Thanks,
and that
Tian.
can do it that way.
Very cool. You see.
Yes, because if you do it in the service, then obviously you don't have to refresh in desktop and then publish. It'll just do it.
Yes, I was like, man, why isn't the thing refreshing? I know it works. Awesome. Thanks so much for that tip. I'll definitely do that. So as you can see, it did update now after I went through all of that, those steps.
Awesome. I see there's a question from Tumi-san.
Oh, yes. Hi, everyone. I wanted to ask, it might actually be a question that's different from what has been presented here, that I've recently just started working in PowerBi, of which we also work in Fabric. I wanted to ask, how can one actually be able to connect data that is from Fabric in Power Apps and actually be allowed to edit tables? An example of that would be to maybe add a column and so forth. How can that be possible? working with finance data?
That is a very good question. I actually haven't seen any connectors. I know there's probably should be some connectors to Fabric, but I haven't seen any or even played with it yet. So I won't be able to tell you if you can directly connect it to maybe something in Fabric. I specifically know about the PowerBi one, but I don't know if anyone else on the call knows of the connectors that you can use from a Fabric perspective. I haven't seen any.
Yeah, and did you say you wanted to add columns to the source from the Power App?
The thing is, there's an option that you can connect to Fabric with, which is through the virtual connectors, right? But in that sense, there's a limitation of not being able to add cables that you've connected from Fabric. They become static. So a limitation of that is that you can't really add columns as you can when you now add data from SharePoint through data flows or, SharePoint lists as well. So I just wanted to find out if maybe there was a way around that, because that, in my mind, I would think that would actually allow one to load the app faster and actually be more efficient, since you're just connecting and not really saving the data natively.
No, I haven't seen something like that yet at all.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm not on the
all right.
lookout for that, but I also haven't seen that. So yeah.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks for asking, Tumi-san.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Cool. Are there any other questions for Carike? Doesn't look like it, but thank you so much, Carike. Thank you. It was such an informative session. I think Power Apps, because it's relatively new as well over the last few years, there's a bit of a black box around it. So I think just these kinds of sessions where we can share a bit more knowledge of the struggles and the new cool ways we could achieve something is really, really helpful at large, just to see what's possible with Power Apps. So thank you so much for the time. It was really awesome having you here.
Thank you so much, Cailin.
Awesome. Sven, I see you've got your hand up.
Yes, before everyone drops off, I've just posted in the chat a little URL that I got from Microsoft, I think either last night or this morning. It is for training courses that start next week. It's for anyone who's keen to do their DP 700. So that's the data engineering component of Fabric, not the DP 600, but the 700 instead. That course starts on the 30th of April. I'm just looking at my other screen. 30th of April runs to the 21st of May, and it's at noon UK time. So that's basically, if I'm not mistaken, that's 1 p.m. right now. Sorry, 1 in the afternoon. So the decent time zone for us. So if anyone is busy studying for that exam, there's some free training that starts. Just go onto the URL. I haven't gone on because I'm not going to do the 700. I'm going to do the 600 rather. But actually, if you're a data engineer and you want to participate in that training, have a look. I don't know if it's like a weekly thing. Maybe it's every Wednesday for 4 weeks or something like that. It'll probably be something like that. But anyway, just have a look.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sven. I've also posted the survey QR code in the chat as well for those of you who want to provide some feedback. If you also have something interesting you'd like to share with the community as well, please fill that out. We can then reach out to you to possibly be a presenter at one of our next events. So please do that as well. Just a bit of admin for the next BI user group. It will be taking place on the 29th of May, so a little bit later. So we look forward to seeing you there, and that one will be a hybrid event as well. So we will send out the topic a bit closer to the time, but we look forward to seeing you there. And thank you so much, Carike. Once again, thank you for your time, and thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your day and long weekend ahead.
Another one. Yippee. Yeah.
Woohoo. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great evening.
Well done. Thank you, Carike.
Thanks, Wayne.
Cheers, Cailin. Thank you, Nolo. Cheers.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.